Imagine designing a hotel where you are not allowed to check in. Coming up on Architecture CodeX.
Architecture CodeX. If you want to see more, like, comment, share, and most importantly, subscribe.
For years, I've been wanting to make a video about architect Paul Revere Williams, but I had not visited any of his buildings. So when a trip to Las Vegas was coming up, I planned on a visit to La Concha Motel, designed by Williams in 1961. But on the ground in Vegas, I was getting conflicting information from the internet. One site called it the Neon Museum, so I figured the motel had been repurposed. Yet when we got to the address of what one website still called the motel, we could not see it. We circled the block twice, parked, and then went on foot. And we found the location of the hotel. It was a big hole in the ground. A bit more detective work and the puzzle was solved. Most of the motel was demolished in 2005, and in 2006, the lobby, the shell structure, was sectioned and moved to the Las Vegas Neon and Boneyard Museum down the strip. You gotta love Las Vegas. The Neon Museum is a great collection of the original neon signs and some other parts of the classic Vegas of a bygone era. And as an accidental discovery, it was well worth the trip. Which brings me to the main lobby, the relocated lobby of the La Concha Motel. The visual focus of Williams' design was the lobby, with its shell structure that skips up and down, creating three parabolic arches. Technically, it is a hyperbolic paraboloid formed of thin concrete and was a dynamic feature of Las Vegas long before the Pringles potato chip. Shell structures are monolithic membranes that get their strength by distorting form in two planes. It is labor-intensive to build, but saves material, so it was popular in less industrialized regions of the world for many decades. The lobby successfully and succinctly gave the motel an iconic identity, even though it was just a small piece of the otherwise economically constructed building, and its history included guests such as Anne Margaret, the Carpenters, Flip Wilson, Muhammad Ali, and Ronald Reagan. The architect, Paul Revere Williams, might primarily be known as the architect to the stars, having done homes for the likes of Frank Sinatra, Barbara Stanwyck, and Lucien Desi Arnaz, among the over 2,000 buildings he designed. Today, real estate listings hungrily tout his name on any home for sale, as the public has always recognized his talents. And while he won a 1939 local chapter AIA award for the MCA building of Beverly Hills, it wasn't until 2017 that the national AIA finally acknowledged Williams' body of work. Like the 2013 AIA award for Julia Morgan, Architecture Codex video number 63, the honor came much too late. This is probably because both Morgan and Williams practice predominantly traditional historic forms of architecture, while the AIA favors modern and postmodern styles. Yet, if you look at his portfolio, you can see eclectic designs, including traditional and iconically modern work. The more modern designs include the La Concha Motel or Frank Sinatra's house. It appears that the gentle Williams just went about doing his own thing, putting in the hard work and making the clients happy, adeptly designing the building type they preferred. His excellence made it impossible for people to dismiss him. Williams designed the 1949 addition, known as the Crescent, to the Beverly Hills Hotel. The famous logo of the hotel was apparently Williams' own script. At the time, the hotel was restricted to people of color. This was common in this era, and just one of the things that the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 60s changed. It appears that many people privately saw the injustice of racism, such as the managers who hired Williams, but they were too afraid to take a public stance against segregation. In this case, assuming that no white people would go to a hotel that also accommodated blacks. Of course, some white people wouldn't, but we have seen that nearly all white people would not care. And some might wonder why Williams would take a commission from a client that was so prejudiced. I can only conjecture that given his quiet way, Williams saw this as an opportunity to show them how irrational their policy of no people of color was. Williams' La Concha Motel was never restricted, just indicating how quickly things were changing. Williams was certainly a pioneer, being the first African-American licensed architect in the state of California in 1921. He went to school at the University of Southern California, graduating in 1919. Williams won a number of design competitions around this time. Such competitions are judged blindly, so his race was not a factor one way or the other. He did an apprenticeship in the office of John C. Austin, joined the AIA in 1923, the first black member west of the Mississippi, and opened his own office in 1924 at the age of 30. Like many traditional architects, Paul Revere Williams received schooling from the École des Beaux-Arts in Paris, except he didn't go to Paris. How exactly this worked, I'm not sure. The accounts I've read are conflicting. In one account, there was a satellite school in Los Angeles and New York, and Paul could have attended one of those schools, probably the one in Los Angeles. In another account, it was a correspondence school, akin to our asynchronous schools of today, where a person would learn online. Here, instead, they used the mail. Paul would receive assignments in the mail, complete them, and mail them out to be evaluated. It makes a lot of sense, and is further testament to Paul Williams' drive to be an excellent architect, finding a way to get an education from what was, at the time, the premier architecture school in the world. I have no doubt that Paul Williams faced a lot of prejudice and discrimination in his time, and yet he describes his upbringing in his mixed-race Southern California town as being very quiet, without incidents of racism. It was not until he expressed interest in architecture at Polytechnic High School in Los Angeles that one teacher warned him, "Your own people can't afford you, and white clients won't hire you." The teacher may have been sincere, but he was wrong. Williams recalls in 1963 that this warning taught him an important lesson. Quote, "It prompted me to make an important decision. If I allow the fact that I am a Negro to checkmate my will to do now, I will inevitably form the habit of being defeated. And if prejudice is ever to be overcome, it must be through the efforts of individual Negroes to rise above the average cultural level of their kind. Therefore, I owe it to myself and to my people to accept this challenge." End quote. There is one very popular story about Williams which I do question, and while it is repeated often, I have yet to find the original source. And in all the interviews I've viewed and read, Paul Revere Williams never mentions it. It is the story that because his white clients were uncomfortable sitting next to Williams because of his race, he would have to sit on the opposite side of the table and consequently learned to draw upside down. Now, this only makes sense if you are not an architect. First, when you are drawing floor plans, there is no such thing as upside down. Secondly, like most architects, I always sit on the opposite side of the table with my clients while we are discussing a design so I can make eye contact with them, and consequently, I too draw upside down. In one interview, Williams mentions drawing perspectives upside down, which is harder, but he talks about it with a chuckle, as he knew that tricks like that impress clients. Again, like many other architects, I too draw perspectives upside down, or even write words upside down. Like Williams, I appreciate that clients can be entertained by stunts that we architects consider a basic skill. I have even been drawing when clients noticed that I was drawing left-handed, and they would say, "You're left-handed," and I would say, "Sorry, switch hands," and continue to draw. Since drawing is the primary means where we express the ideas in our heads, it is less of a trick and more indicative of how our architect brains work, regardless of race or gender. Back to the La Concha Motel. By the way, that sounds odd because I am saying the La Concha Motel, which means I'm using two definitive determinators, one in English and one in Spanish. But I tried just saying La Concha Motel, and that too sounds kind of odd. Back to La Concha Motel. I recall being impressed by it and other shell structures when I was doing research for my architecture school thesis, a sports arena that had a series of shell structures for the roof. At that moment, Paul Revere Williams was just another faceless name attached to another impressive and inspiring architectural design that I was cataloging in my studies. I am happy I got to La Concha Lobby while it still existed, even if it had been moved. And I am just as happy that many others also saw what I saw, the inherent value of good design, so I could see it preserved. Which explains why walking through the Las Vegas Neon Museum and Boneyard, I had the same sense I got when walking through the ancient Forum in Rome or the Acropolis in Athens. Behind all these artifacts, then, are the stories of once living people who pursued dreams, faced struggles, and yet they found a way to build. Empires expand and collapse, and often leave behind only fragments of personal artifacts, some inscriptions, and the ruins of their buildings. So then, like the Arch of Titus in the Roman Forum, the La Concha Motel lobby, designed by Williams, was a portal through which the powerful once passed, and it remains a testament to the glories of an old Las Vegas. I'm Michael Molinelli, and this is Architecture CodeX.